Good morning. All right, we got enough coffee in us already. So I'm going to share the good and the bad news. So here's the bad news. I'm not going to solve all your problems in 30 minutes. It's just not going to happen. Well, here's the good news, is we have 30 minutes to provide you some information where it should be an actionable item for you to take away. So that's really what we want to do here today, is provide you at least one thing you can take back to your company, back to your restaurants, back to your people to make a difference. Fair enough? Outstanding. So again, I'm Steve Felson from Buona and the original Rainbow Cone. If you're from out of town, you should not leave Chicago before you try these two Chicago icons. They are amazing. There's one within 5 miles of this hotel. So I'll leave it at that. So today we're going to talk about building foundations. And it's one of the harder things to do in the restaurant business, right? Because we're busy with labor and scheduling and DoorDash refunds and where's my truck and where's my PM cook and oh my goodness, my new cashier got 17 nose rings yesterday. These are the things that we're dealing with and working with, right? So it's hard to work on the foundational things. But here's what I'm going to tell you. As leaders in the industry, you have to take a moment and breathe. You have to take a moment and breathe and say to yourself, where am I putting my time? Where am I putting my effort? Is it a long-term solution or a short-term solution? I talk about this all the time. Restaurant people are like that guy you see on the highway with his hand out the window holding the mattress down on the top of his car. Right? You've all seen that person? You think that's really doing anything? I don't think so. But you feel better about it, right? So you got a guest complaint yesterday, hey, my coffee wasn't hot enough. I'm going to run to the restaurant and say, hey, why isn't your coffee hot enough? You got to stop doing that. Build foundations for success. So here's what we're going to talk about today, 3 basic things. Okay, number 1, we're going to talk about setting clear expectations to provide tangible results. 2 key words there, clear and tangible. And it doesn't need to be clear to you, it needs to be clear to the person you're speaking to. And tangible means it should be measurable, it should be meaningful, and you should be able to take it home with you and know if you've succeeded or not. Second, we're going to talk about developing a step-by-step path to success. Today's worker is distracted. You're probably distracted. Have you ever tried to read an article on your phone? How many of you find yourself skimming when you're trying to read? It's just the way we are now. We've been trained to skim. We have to slow it down for people and create a step-by-step path for success. We know where they're succeeding, where they're not, and where we get back on the path. And then finally, we're going to talk about deploying systems. We have a ballroom full of systems over there. You have to make wise choices. They're all fantastic products. Are they right for you? Are the 17 pieces of software you have right for you? Are they overkill? So we're going to talk about all those things to create success for your frontline people. So let's start with setting clear expectations to create these tangible results. How many of you know if you're succeeding today in your business? Well, that's scary, right? Just 2 or 3 of you. Maybe some of you do. How do you know? Well, you know what you're trying to achieve. So when we're talking about having success, clear expectations mean a number of things. We have to set the expectation for what it is, how they do it, what's the success criteria, right? So you see Simon Sinek up here. He always has something great to say, right? But we have to be flexible in the route to get there. And this is one of the things I want to focus on. If we dictate everything to everyone, then it's just they're doing what we told them to do and we're not creating thinkers. So one of the things I want you to take away today is the fact that manage the result, not necessarily every single step. But you have to teach them 4 things. Number 1, what is it you want them to do? Be very clear and check for understanding, right? I want you to go ahead and cut labor by 10%. Okay. This is what your manager does, walks to the back, right? How do I cut labor by 10%? Because now you're going to yell at me because my guests are unhappy. Here's what I want to do is I want to have a schedule that makes sense based on projections. Okay, so tell me what you're going to do. Well, I'm going to look at our projections, and I'm going to create a labor schedule. I'm going to send it to you. We're going to discuss it. Fantastic, right? You've set a clear expectation. You've set a way to get there, and you've created a way for them to say it back to you. If your managers, if your leaders are not checking for that understanding, we're missing the boat. You have many cultures in your restaurants. You have many backgrounds. You have many ways of listening, many ways of understanding. And if you married, and have you ever checked for understanding with your spouse? Because I know for myself, I'm thinking one thing and my wife heard something different. And then she says something and I heard something different, right? You have to check for understanding for success. But be very clear on what you want them to do and be very clear that they understood what you asked them to do. Next, huge, tell them why. You can't bark out orders. This isn't a generation where you can say, do this because I said so, right? That was 1945. You now have to explain. You have to get buy-in. You have to understand the why. Okay, I want you to take the meat and do it this way because when we do it comes out juicy and the temperature lasts longer. Okay, I get that. Don't leave the ice scoop in the ice. Why? Because you have to take your hand, stick it in the ice scoop. You're going to touch the ice. You're going to contaminate the ice. Share the whys with people when you're telling them what to do. So if they know what to do and they know why they're going to do it, now we get to the when. We're not great at this in the restaurant industry. When should this be done? When is the due date? Do we have SMART goals? Do they understand what the expectation is? We have to be very clear as to when this should be accomplished and if or not it is accomplished. So if they know what's expected of them, when it's done, and what the success criteria is, we now have a chance for success, right? And you may not have realized this, but this is just thoughts you have, but this is a system. It is a conscious effort to explain why, to explain when. But here's where we go wrong a lot of the times. It's the how. We have great people in our restaurants, right? So we take these great creative people and then tell them, hey, all that creativity you have, shove it out the window. I want you to do this, 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 and this to get here. Manage the result, not the specific process. And again, check for understanding. Okay, so tell me how you might accomplish that. Okay, I get that. Have you thought about this? Yes, I'm doing this. Fantastic. See you at the finish line. Let people be themselves. We heard all morning about people being engaged, right? We heard about surveys and all sorts of things. What's more engaging than getting to be great every day? Than the tapping into the greatness you have inside of you and sharing it. A 15, or in California, $20 an hour employee wants to feel important. How important do they feel when you say, hey, go to the walk-in, go to the right, go to the second shelf, get this, get this, get this, do this, do this, do this, do this. Okay, I'll just do that. Versus, hey, what do you think the best way is to get that stuff out of the walk-in to the line? Well, I was thinking this based on my 12 years working here. Oh, that's outstanding, right? Let them figure out the how. Your job is to take the clear expectation and the result and check on the process in the middle, but let them get there. So this is the first system I want to talk about, right? Setting clear expectations. When you do this and you have that tangible result, one, you'll know if you're winning or losing the game. You'll also know if your team is winning or losing. How do you ever develop someone if you never let them think? Let's move on to the second process. Developing a step-by-step path to success. Again, this is a generation, even our older generations, even people our age, need step-by-step instructions. Remember how you got directions to your friend's house back in the early 80s? So what you're going to do is you're going to drive down to the Burger King. You're going to make a left, right? Then you go to the fourth tree on the right. Then you go this, you're going to go this, you're going to go this. If you couldn't remember the steps, where'd you end up? In the Burger King parking lot calling your friend from the payphone? You need steps. People need to know if they're on track. They need to know if they're doing the right things. Everyone wants to know if they're on the right track. They talk about child discipline. Children need that discipline to know that their parents love them, right? They need that discipline from teachers to know that, okay, I'm here or I'm there. People crave that discipline. So give that to them. There's a couple of things you can do to create this step by step. Right? Every task is going to be different, but number one, stop hiring managers. Create leaders. Managers tell you what to do. Leaders get you to where you want to go. There's a very big difference. So number one, hire great people. All of you have some input into that. Say no to the ones who, yeah, they're going to fill the schedule because I'm shorthanded. Right? Some of you have taken a pulse on people and that was the criteria. Right? Here's your interview questions. Are you currently alive? Yes. Can you work Saturdays? You're hired. Hire great people. Provide clear direction. Check for understanding. How about number 4? Be a cheerleader. Be the Taylor Swift to your restaurant's Kelsey, right? Be a cheerleader. Everyone needs to feel great about themselves. Your job is to make course corrections and impact the final product. This goes back to what we said before. Leaders lead. Leaders hire great people, give clear instructions, get out of the way. Think of it like this. Everything you want people to do is like a boat. As a leader, if your hands are on the steering wheel of a boat, you're in the wrong place. Your hands should be on the rudder. Let your managers and your employees and your shift leaders have the steering wheel. But stay close enough so if they get off course, you adjust the rudder just a little bit to keep them on course. Right? That's how you create great people. Impact the final product. Let them find the path. How do you create step-by-step success? This is an actual process you could take back with you. Number 1, develop the process, whatever it is. If it's a new product, if it's a marketing plan, if it's following up on guest comments, if it's doing inventory. Develop the process. Before you send it out to everyone, you should test it. Nothing loses your credibility more than sending out a process you haven't tested and then you find out in the moment, hey, this doesn't work, and this doesn't work, and this doesn't work. Because your managers now lose faith in you and confidence in you. By the way, as part of that development and testing, you should get input from the folks who will be using it. And I'm not talking about the people who are salaried, I'm talking about the people who are hourly people. I'm going to give you an example of what I mean here. So I worked for a brand years ago that did hamburgers on a lettuce bun. Doesn't seem like a very hard thing. Lettuce bun, you take a half a head of lettuce, you cut it in half, you peel off some things, you put it on the burger, you slice the edges off. We were very proud of that process. Until an employee pulled me aside one day and said, can I ask you a question? I said, yeah. He says, why are y'all so stupid? It was a much open-ended question. But I said, could you clarify? He says, why don't y'all just do this for the lettuce? He grabbed an egg ring off of the grill and went, shoop. Oh, a perfect circular lettuce bun that I didn't have to get a chef knife onto the cook line to do that. Have them be a part of the process. Part of the testing process, whatever it is. Properly introduce the process. Communication is key. Nothing more annoying than finding out you're doing something wrong while you're doing it, and you were never told. What is your communication process? Is there a top-down process where you show people? You let them do the hands-on, you let them hear it, you let them read it, you let them watch it, you let them touch it. Communicate properly as to the what, the why, the when, and the how. Measure the success. And by the way, when I say measure success, I'm not talking about value judgments of good or bad. It's what's so. This is working or not working. No value judgment there. We need to make this correction. Or this is working much better than I thought. Congratulations to you for doing this the right way. Right? But measure that success. Inevitably, you'll have to revise the process. It never works 100% right out of the gate, and if it does, times change. You remember at some point, 8-track tapes were the end-all be-all of music, right? You have to revise the process at some point. And then once you revise, reteach. This is the second system. Step-by-step success. And if you go back and look at things that aren't working, you're going to find you're missing steps somewhere. It's okay. Go back and fix it. Your team will be thrilled with you that you took the time to say, hey, maybe this isn't right. We're going to get you in on the solution. And by the way, don't forget to be that cheerleader. I can't believe how well this restaurant accomplished that. Fantastic. Right? Call them out in public. So there's your step-by-step process. The third piece, deploying the right systems to lead and grow your frontline team. It is the information age, right? We heard a presentation about 2 hours ago that talked about that. You can't measure everything. You can't have every piece of software. You can't have every piece of equipment. You can't do everything. You have to be really clear about what you're enacting and really clear about where it fits into the puzzle. So as your brands emerge and reemerge and grow, be really intentional about what you bring into the process. Every program, every spreadsheet, every email, every report has a piece of the puzzle, and it either adds or subtracts to the process, right? So you have to be extremely selective on what you bring into the brand because it represents the brand. You've all had those days where you couldn't even start your day because you had 274 emails before 9 a.m.? And how many of those were valuable? I don't know, 10? How many times do you see a 22 email chain where you could have used this thing that I think you've heard of this called this telephone, right? Called and asked a question, or use some other process. Be responsible for what you bring into your system. This quote I actually love. Give ordinary people the right tools and they will design and build the most extraordinary things. Think about that. The people who run your businesses make between $12 and $20 an hour. Not the six-figure CEO or eight-figure CEO or 12-figure CEO. Not the VPs, not the directors. The people who run your organizations are making $12 to $20 an hour. These, to quote Willy Wonka, these are the dreamers, right? These are the ones who know. Tap into them. Make them a part of this process as you go through and bring in systems. So here are some of the more common systems that you're going to bring in, right? Technology, people systems, operations, guest service, task minders, data, results, KPI. But my goodness, how much can you really go over in a day? How many reports can you really read? I implore you that none of the first two systems we talk about will work if you don't have this right, because this will distract people from doing the right things. Because we're busy checking on checklists and checking on the checklist of the checklists. And by the way, what really runs your restaurant is tribal knowledge. One of my favorite terms. My team can tell you I say it 25 times a day. What is tribal knowledge? Tribal knowledge is the best and the worst thing that ever happened to your business. Tribal knowledge is the cook who's been there for 22 years, the cashier who was there 3 POS systems ago, who knows everything about your business. And they also know that I was here before you got here, and I'll be here after you're gone. And this is what the manual says. Let me tell you how we really do it. Right? You never heard that before. This is what they say, but hey, you know what? I know better. You have to be very careful about tribal knowledge. And how does that fit into your systems? Because it is a system. It's a necessary system because without that history, without that expertise, without knowing what worked and didn't work, it's hard to make decisions on these. So you have to count it as part of your systems. One of the things we've enacted at Buona is an email address called greatideas@buona.com. You're all welcome to email it if you want. It's mostly internal, but it allows any associate, any employee, any restaurant support center staff to send in their ideas. And we have a promise to them that once a month we'll go through those ideas. We'll take some, we won't. We'll explain why we did either one of those. And we'll make sure that all these things that they thought were smart, we can get into the system. We train by the manual. If the manual is wrong, We change the manual, then we do the new thing. We don't just decide in the moment, I know better than 41 years of history. Original rainbow cone's been around for almost 100 years. They figured a couple of things out. We have great systems, and there's room for innovation. So be careful about what you bring in. But whatever it is, whatever you bring in, this is the key right here. It has to cause an action. If information is there for information purposes, you're wasting your time. It has to cause an action. Be intentional about this. And this is your barometer if your systems are working. If you got 5 reports in your email this morning and you said, okay, and shoved them into deleted or some other folder or put it into your existing system, it was worthless. If you don't have an action, it didn't do anything for you. This may be the most important thing you take away today, because you can analyze anything you do in your business life, your personal life, wherever it is. If it doesn't cause an action, you are not on track. So we've talked about 3 different systems today. Right? Here are some key takeaways for you. These are also in the literature you got. But again, it's extremely important that you take action after this. Don't sit here for 30 minutes and then go back and say, well, that was kind of nice. It was nice to be out of the office for a day. I got some delicious biscuits and frittatas and went on my way. Be clear. Whatever it is you're talking about, be clear and check for understanding. If people don't know what they need to accomplish, they're not going to accomplish it. And worse, if they think they did and you tell them they didn't, now they're demoralized and they're a candidate to go be promoted to customer. Right? Number 2, trust and verify. Doesn't say do everything. You can't do everything. You can't be in the middle of every step of every single thing. Trust your people to do the right thing. One of the best supervisors I ever had early in my career told me, assume everybody will do the right thing and prepare for everybody to do the wrong thing. It's wisdom I've used for 30 years. Trust and verify. Right? Get out of the minutia. Do you really care if they put it on the left or the right side of the cooler? As long as it's safe, what do you care? Right? Let them be where they want to be. Allow team members to use their individual skills to complete assignments. And number 3, be an action hero. Again, if you're not taking action, it wasn't worth the time you spent. In this business, your most valuable resource is time. There's only so many hours in a day. You have to have a work-life balance. Your team has to have a work-life balance. If it doesn't have an action and it didn't solve a problem or improve in current reality, then it wasn't worth very much. So look, again, I promised you I wouldn't solve all your problems in 30 minutes, and I held true to that promise, so you're welcome. Number 2, I didn't tell you anything you didn't already know. What I did hopefully do was to push up some dirt around it and say, hey, maybe these are some priorities you've let fall to the wayside. Maybe these are some things I haven't been focusing on. Maybe these are some things that are causing my team to leave, or worse, causing the mediocre ones to stay. Have high expectations for people. Celebrate their success. Success, by the way, won't be final. Neither is failure. But it's the courage to continue that will count. Great brands, great companies evolve every single day. You all can evolve in the same way. But it takes intentionality, it takes caring for people, and it takes the willingness and commitment to have them grow so you can be great. All right, guys, I am out of time. I'll be here all day if you have other questions. Thank you so much. I enjoyed talking with you. Have a great day.